From Nutrien Ag Solutions, this is Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, September 12th, 2022. Temperatures have rebounded after that shot of cooler air that we saw over the first half of the weekend, though we do have some cooler temperatures off across northern portions of the Prairie provinces here. 4 degrees in the Grand Prairie, Peace River area, and a shot of cooler air is going to make its way from northwest to southeast across at least kind of the eastern and northern half of the Prairie, we'll call it. We'll talk about that here in a moment. Advisories across the Prairie right now. We've got a air quality alerts here across southern Alberta, southern British Columbia with smoke from wildfires across the Pacific Northwest, portions of western Canada, caught beneath that ridge of high pressure across the west. Now, as we take a look at the satellite picture, infrared satellite on Monday morning, a lot of moving parts, and really we have a complicated next 7 to 10 days, and I'm going to try and not overcomplicate it here as we kind of go through how things are going to be impacting western Canada and the Prairie. But you can see multiple swirls here. You know, we've got what was Tropical Storm Earl kind of becoming post-tropical here across the Atlantic. We've got another storm system across the Great Lakes. We've got another low here across the western Pacific. Another system sneaking across the Hudson Bay, kind of a frontal boundary extended from there. And then as we dive in, you'll see even more subtle disturbances in place across the region. Now, the radar is clear on Monday morning. We're going to get increasingly active, though, as we head through the end of the week into the weekend. So patchy problems here as we talk about harvest operations here continuing in full swing, maybe wrapping up in some areas, but some interruptions here as we head through the week in some areas. Now, as we look at the NAM model, just taking it through the next few days, you can see a little disturbance make its way along the U.S. and Canadian border. Much of the precipitation going to fall across portions of southeast Saskatchewan into southern Manitoba with this one, especially Wednesday and Thursday. Now, we'll talk about that here in depth in just a moment. We'll compare the ECMWF, the European model, with the American GFS model. The NAM taking it through midday Thursday. You can see, a pocket of heavier precipitation here. Really, this is going to be, the models will struggle, is what I'm going to say about this one, with the exact placement and the exact amounts. But, as we go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday into the first half of Thursday, quite a few areas here remaining on the dry side, maybe some spotty showers across central Alberta, and then really southeast Saskatchewan into southern Manitoba. That's where you can see those patchy amounts, anywhere from a trace, some light precipitation, and then some areas picking up maybe a pocket of an inch, maybe slightly more as we head through Thursday into Friday. And you can see that here with the European model. This is the same time frame. This is the NAM. And then here's what you got from the European model. So the European just kind of filling things in, still on the light side, especially across, central southern Alberta. But you see the same corridor here across southeast Saskatchewan into southern Manitoba, where it may be pushing above an inch, maybe 25, 35 millimeters here as we head through late Wednesday into Thursday. And then as we take this all the way through Sunday, so now the next 7 days, the European model here on the left and now the GFS model on the right. Both introduce precipitation basically across the entire Prairie. The European model, a little bit more gung-ho about some of that heavier precip, especially across 2 corridors here. I'll go ahead and circle them on both sides, really. But you see the European model across central into, or maybe western into central portions of Alberta, getting into northern and western Saskatchewan, and then that same corridor here across southeast Saskatchewan into southern Manitoba, the more active corridor. And again, a lot of this focused on the last half of the week. Now, some of the differences here, and first we're going to start with the European model. I'm showing you a map here with cyclonic vorticity. So where you see the deeper shaded colors here, that's where we have cyclonic spin within the atmosphere. And where we move spin into areas where we don't have spin, that's how we can, develop a myriad of things, storm systems, cloud cover, precipitation. So we're very concerned about where we're moving areas of spin into areas that we don't have spin. Each one of these little disturbances here is, something we have to worry about as far as, maybe kicking off some showers across the region, cloud cover. And let's look at, just how complicated things are. We get started here on Monday morning. Again, here's the multiple systems. Here's the wave here across the Hudson Bay. We've got a front extending from the south and west with that one. That's what's going to allow that shot of cooler air to kind of come in across eastern portions of the Prairie over the next 24 hours. Then we see this little wave kind of riding over the ridge across southern Alberta. This is the one that kind of starts kicking off that shower and storm activity across the border of southeast Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba, and the U.S. here Wednesday into Thursday. Kind of a main wave trailing back behind that. This wave lifts into the Prairie then as we get into kind of Wednesday and Thursday. You can see we've got kind of this elongated area here of vorticity where we're going to keep those showers and storms. That's why the Euro and the GFS disagree here in the intensity of the precipitation across southeast Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba, Wednesday into Thursday. We'll take the drawings off here, kind of push it into the later part of the week. Check it out. Disturbance here, a wave here, got a wave here, another little subtle wave right there, a disturbance down here across the high plains of the U.S., another one here across the Dakotas, kind of a broader wave making its way in across the Pacific Northwest. And look at how all of these interact or don't interact. And maybe that becomes a little bit more clear as we kind of flip it over and look at just height anomalies. So now you're seeing kind of, areas of ridging, areas of low pressure, still very complicated. Our post-tropical system here, a big cutoff low across the Great Lakes, your Hudson Bay wave, another little piece of that extending to the south. Pacific Northwest, we've got a wave making its way in there, decaying hurricane across Baja California, a couple bigger troughs here across the Pacific then as well, with a little bit of ridging here in between. Temperatures rebounding across the Prairie here as we get the week started, but numerous little pieces here across North America, across the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. And as you just hit play, you can watch how they all kind of come together or don't come together as we head through the next 7 days, ending with a big trough across Western Canada as the European model would have it. So here's what we got as we go through the next 5 days. Remember I said I'm going to try and not overcomplicate things. If you want to just stop watching now, I'll tell you the forecast is increasing shower and storm activity as we head through the end of the week. You can stop watching now if you don't care about the details. The details, though, they do matter. Here's your shot of colder air across the east as we head through the next 24 hours. Here is the area of showers and storms. It's very subtle that kind of starts making its way into the Prairie. You barely even see it there as you get into Wednesday and Thursday. Much more the troughing activity still kind of lingering back across the Pacific Ocean. You see a couple of waves right here as we get into the end of the week. Now, the European model, what it does is it takes these three waves, kind of just if we generalize, this one, and then this one, to kind of bring them all together here. Although this kind of lead wave, the difference, I forgot, I'm going to have to show you here. This is the difference between the models. This first wave that ejects right here, and then these two troughs that kind of link up and allow that third or fourth piece to come in from Alaska, such that we end up with this bigger trough here as we get into, you can see the date up here. We're 7 days out, so I'm spending a lot of time talking about something that's very complicated and very out there in days 7 to 10, but this ends up with a big trough across Western Canada. This is just straight up active across Western Canada. This is a mess. This is scattered corridors of shower and thunderstorm activity, and likely some cooler temperatures as we get toward the end of the week into the weekend. Now, the GFS model, complicated as well, but with its own version, variation on how all of these things are going to kind of come together. If we kind of just take it out to the end of the week, still looking at troughing developing across Western Canada, but you see it's not nearly as linked up. You've got a piece up here. Let me kind of redraw that right here. Got a piece here. This is tough. I don't get the same drawing on my iPad here when I'm trying to drawing these as you see on the screen. But you kind of see them there all just kind of missing. So we've got kind of a disjointed trough versus the European model, which is much more together. Here's some of the differences. This would be Saturday morning. The European on the left, the GFS model here on the right, and you can see it here. The lead wave ejecting, your Alaskan wave. We've got a piece here, two pieces really across the Pacific coast, and then another piece a little bit further south. Whereas the GFS, much more simple. We've got the wave up here across Alaska, but then we've kind of, missed and dropped things further south with the GFS. We're not so troughy across Western Canada, maybe a deeper trough across the Pacific Northwest. We advance this then to Sunday night, and then again, here's the difference. You end up with the GFS, a much more disjointed look here with the bigger trough well off to the south and then a couple smaller pieces floating around up here, whereas the European, much more deep with that trough, much more centered over Western Canada. So the difference then, the precipitation forecast with the European model, the difference is they're both significant and insignificant. Both paint a similar picture here. That being a relatively quiet start to the week with high pressure across the region. Your Wednesday and Thursday system begins to kind of sneak in here across, showers initially across maybe southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, but then the heavier precipitation falling Wednesday night into Thursday across southeast Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. And then the pattern remains active. We see these many pieces come together, as we get toward the end of the week, into the weekend. This is Saturday, the 17th, getting into Sunday, the 18th, and you see it here. Multiple areas of low pressure kind of just, rotating around each other, bringing waves of showers and storms to the area. And this is something we're just going to simply have to time out as we get closer to the end of the week. The GFS, I'll hit play on this. You're going to see the same story. More active as we get toward the end of this loop, and a generally quiet start to the week, increasing clusters, corridors of showers and storms as we head into the weekend. We'll look at the ensemble picture then. That's, it would behoove us to do that with a very complicated picture coming up here, especially in days 5 through 10, where the ensemble is kind of grabbing onto the heavier precipitation. Where do we see some agreement between these two? Well, again, still some pretty, divergent solutions here, but you can see some agreement. Heavier corridor of precipitation across maybe the foothills here, western Alberta, perhaps extending into portions of central Alberta, maybe, northern and western portions of Saskatchewan as well. And then another cluster, another corridor here. The European model, of course, very gung-ho about that southeast Saskatchewan into southern Manitoba corridor here. The GFS, illustrating it here, but not quite so high on the probabilities, maybe a little down in the 30 to 40% probability range, whereas the European model getting closer to that 70 to 80% probability of picking up more than half an inch of rainfall by 7 p.m. on Sunday, the 18th of September. So your next 7 days there. So where is it most likely you'll get that heavier rain toward the late part of the week? Southeast Saskatchewan, central southern Alberta, and then probably across western into maybe central Alberta. But everyone going to have the potential for some shower and storm activity, especially late week. Your temperatures are going to be very variable. Struggling to get those words out. Quite variable here with the temperatures. Again, a shot of cooler air, especially across the east as we go through the next 24 hours. Ridging and warmth continues to build in across the west as we head through the first few days this week. So get into Wednesday and Thursday, that system with showers and storms across southeast Saskatchewan into southern Manitoba. May have some colder temperatures kind of wrapping around the back side of that. As it gets out of here, though, warmth tries to kind of push back in across the west. It'll be warmer across Alberta and western Saskatchewan here. Cooler in the east. And then as we head toward the end of the week into the weekend, likely seeing some cooler temperatures push in across the east with that larger area of troughing. Your temperatures over the next 10 days, Calgary, pretty steady. Highs in the lower 20s through much of the work week, cooling off just a bit as we head into the end of the week. Edmonton, a very similar picture here now in Saskatoon and Regina. That's where you'll see those cooler temperatures a little bit more impactful with that kind of mid to late week storm system, likely seeing some showers and storms across the region. Winnipeg, you'll see those cooler temperatures as well, although not nearly as cool as what we saw Friday and Saturday. Again, that shot of cool air late last week, very short-lived, not indicative of the overall pattern as we head through mid-September, the pattern which again should favor near or slightly warmer than average temperatures. So again, a very complicated picture over the next 10 days. I hope that wasn't too much for you, but again, broadly speaking, dry start to the week, trending more active as we get toward the end of the week. Very complicated, but likely, rainy in patches as we head through the weekend. Those temperatures near average, maybe a little cooler as we get into days 7 through 10.